Nathan were left in. They go from one health box to the next, trying to crank up a little bit of height. They at least have mats to their name, but not much of anything else. CZB, he's going to immediately try and collapse onto another weakened trio, hoping to just find Aiden, Hardfine, Michael seem to be in a whole situation themselves, but that Siphon at least going to buy him a little bit of time, and Hardfine has absolutely no idea of what's actually behind him. CZB just coming in so late to the party. A big refresh. And at least while they're a duo, Nathan and CZB, they're going to be able to keep trying to pack a punch, trekking forward. Somehow, some way, the lobby just no longer paying attention to them.
They are hanging on by a thread right now. Their HP is dwindling. The storm is closing in as well. If they can evade anyone's attention here, then make their way in, they will have the heals to heal up at least somewhat, particularly looking at their shield. But there are players lurking behind as well. They're unwanted in terms of Nathan and CZB right now. This is a duo that we talked about before. I just don't know how he's done that. Another great knock. And they're just keeping on plowing through. They do make it inside of the zone. If they can just evade all this attention from everyone, they might be okay. But as I say that, CZB falls, Nathan falls as well. It was a valiant effort, but not quite enough from them in the end.
Big power trio, though, that's starting to enter the conversation. Malibuca, Wox, and Ping. They'll be more than happy to collect some of those leftover resources. At the same time, though, they've got to be wary of the fact that there is another team sitting on the opposite end of these walls, and these walls do not belong to them just yet. Malibuca, Ping, and Wox a little bit tied down here. They're strapped mini, but the problem is whether or not they can even break through where a lot of this congestion is starting to pool. They're going to manage to make it up and over the hill, box up temporarily, just continue to try and restore some of the shield that's needed here for Malibuca, but they're going to have to find a refresh. They can't continue in their current state.
This lobby is looking difficult in terms of the rotation, but look who's not looking in a difficult situation. It's Camiseti and Chari. These guys are in the perfect position just to hold everyone else. All the stragglers at the backside of zone still trying to make their way in. These guys can take advantage of it right the way up until that zone does close. This is a trio that always seem to be in the right position. Another great knock there from Chari, and it's hopefully going to be their first elimination of the game. The ability for them just to find themselves in the perfect position every single game is looking great. But look at this for a little high take there from Haijo, Kaito, and Turtle. It looks like they're trying to take both sides of the zones no matter where it goes. They should have it covered, but look at this. Veno down, Vico Flixi left to clutch.
And this is not the circumstance that Vico and Flixi want to try and work with either. Only 2 builds remain. Vico knows that he has to confirm another elimination. They need second materials from someone, but it doesn't look as if anybody is willing to budge here. Flixi and Vico just all but exposed at this point, trying to continue buying themselves a little bit more time, a little bit more placement. What it seems so promising is now just the wave turning completely against them. Flixi tries to see if he can get the confirmation, Elan, but it's going to be the end of the road here in Game 1 for our Major 1 Finals champions. And tough scenes. Can't say the same, though, for Keto, Haijo, and Turtle. They're looking to set themselves up nicely here on the high ground, and nobody anywhere near.
Yeah, they had to set themselves up with a lot of materials earlier on. You can see the amount of materials they're expending right now. Really trying to make the most of it, really solidifying their spot on high ground. But what they need to make sure they do is not burn out too quickly. Find those knocks, find those refreshes. That's Turtle and Kaito's job. But at the bottom of the screen, Swizzy there going down. It's all up to Mustache, and no, Mustache falls as well. That trio was one that we were expecting. Frankie called it out. She wanted a Game 1 win, but unfortunately for her and them, it's not going to happen.
Seti, Hari, Cammy, though, they look like they're setting themselves up nicely to try and go for a counteractive push onto the high ground. Malibuca, Wox, Ping, they're just caught in the congestion inside of the mid and low. Finally going to look to try and break their way through. That knock onto Chap. The Siphon going to come into effect any moment here for Ping, but instead, he's got to keep the job cruising. Can't afford to slow down for even a moment with the way that this lobby is just looking to collapse all around them. And they're not the only ones finding themselves in this scenario, Mini. We saw this stage of the high ground, and Keto, Haijo, Turtle, they're doing a pretty solid job of holding on to it for the time being, but they don't have a whole lot of ammunition left. Haijo can only continue to suppress for so much longer. They're going to have to get up close and personal.
Look at where that zone pulls, though, all the way over the hill. So for the low ground teams like Seti, Cammy, and Chari, it's just going to be difficult for them to traverse their way up. They're trying their best. They're getting shut down by Kaizo, Haijo, and Turtle, who are doing an excellent job at doing that. But Cammy now left as a solo, having to solo clutch as much as he can. Mixon there just above him as well. So we got a bit of Polish action on that second height. Haijo, Kaito, and Turtle. Haijo does drop down, and they're the team that are on height now. They're the team that are trying to control the lobby as the zone does pull back down the mountain. But no, Kaito falls. It's fall damage for him. That's going to be a disaster for the other team up on height. Can they try and solo clutch this now? Or duo clutch, as I should say. As Ping walks, Malibuka try and take height. It's Ping on his own. Malibuka falls. It's all up to Ping. Or is it Haijo and Turtle?
It's Haijo and Turtle looking to shut down Ping. Ping might have bought himself a little bit more time, a couple more placements, but Haijo, he's actually going to be the next one to fall damage himself. And Turtle, now what looked to be such a recipe for success here on the high ground, it's going to be a lone Turtle trying to drop all the way down to the bottom, hoping to remain as concealed as possible. Still has a decent amount of heals, but Trexer, Cheatin, Robin, this might have just been hand-delivered victories for them. They're just going to continue to spray down. They know there's not a whole lot standing between them. It's only Mixon. It's only Turtle. They're trying to do what they can to prevent themselves from being fully exposed, but Mixon only has so much HP left to work with, and Cheatin is just so relentless alongside Robin. They're not even looking in Turtle's direction any longer, but they might have to backtrack here. Mixon finally going to find himself being collected by Cheatin, Robin, and Trexer, but this is all doomed from the finish here. The moment that we saw Haijo and Quito collapsing from the high ground mini, this story kind of wrote itself here for our Victory Royale winners in match 1.
Yeah, Robin, Cheatin, and Trexer, they saw that opportunity. They saw the door being open to high ground, and they took it with aplomb. Really nice work from them. But what's going on? High ground teams, game 1 of groups, it all seems to be crumbling down, and everyone seems to be falling at the worst moments in this group 1. So hopefully a lot of our teams will take note of that and hopefully not do the same. It was looking so good for Haijo and co, but really nicely played here from Cheatin, Trexer, and Robin, who just kept on applying that pressure. They had eliminations earlier on as well, so they were able to take advantage of that, and the zone pulling back up gave Turtle absolutely no chance.
I just have to get a look back on where things actually went so wrong here, but everything ended up going so right as well for Robin and Cheatin. So Des, what do you got to say?
I mean, this is a trio that clearly saw an opportunity coming their way. We could see that the guys on the high ground Turtles trio, it just wasn't going to be sustainable for them in the end, given that they were so low on ammo in the end. Takata, are you pleased for our first trio of Group 2 going through to next weekend's Grand Finals?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. This is literally the most stacked group in EU, and already off the bat, a lot of those kind of original trios we talked about only made it so far in the late game, but Cheatin, Trexer, and Robin did take home that Victory Royale. I believe they were landing Hopeful Heights, so that's a new uncontested drop spot on the map now. 11, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited for them. You know, I look at all those players and they've all showed me signs at different times in previous seasons. And, you know, it sort of reminded me of sort of what you see in some eval games where you just sort of bide your time and your opportunity will come to go up there and ascend to high ground. But I think the cool thing here is like you said, Takata, right? Like every time a win gets taken up by another team that isn't one of the titans of the lobby per se, a bit more pressure, just a bit more pressure every single game. Yeah. And I think this is a good team to do it, right? Because they're a team that, you know, I think definitely deserves a place in the Major 1 finals. And, you know, who knows what they can do? I think the sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, it was a huge game for Haijo, Turtle, and Kaido too, but they just held tight for so long that they used all of the materials. They were running low on what they needed to sustain height, so props to